was asking a question.
So this question is for the both of you. Why do you think representation matters, not only in your industry, but in communities?
Well, for me, I'll just say that if people, young students and young people can see others of their demographic striving and succeeding in various areas, then they know that it's possible. But if they never see it, they never experience it, they never have that type of representation, then it's kind of hard to get out of your own personal environmental limitations. So it's great to see it, and I think it enhances the ability of that person to really strive for higher achievements.
I'll just answer in terms of education. I think similar to my experience, many people don't know all the things you can do in education. And I think there are lots of lucrative and sustainable careers you can have in education outside of teaching, but sometimes those conversations don't necessarily reach youth of color. And so I think if we want to increase representation, I think we have to talk about all the possibilities, because you can potentially have any career path and also work at a university. We have doctors, we have engineers, there are attorneys for universities as well. But I think one for me, it's just a conversation. I think when people, particularly younger people of color, when they find out, like, what do I do for a living? And I tell them the type of things and they're like, that's a job, So I think that, just having, I think, we have to have more mentorship and like really pour into our youth. I was just going to say, Ernst, you don't have to ask those questions. I was saying the questions were like the favorite color ones.
Right, that rapid fire.
Okay. So thank you for answering that question. So let's get to the fun, exciting questions. What's your favorite color?
You can go.
Blue.
Blue. Mine's purple.
Yeah, okay.
Your favorite coffee shop beverage?
Currently, or like, because I have a lot.
Let's say currently.
Currently is white chocolate mocha with a splash of raspberry and some whipped cream on top.
I like a skinny vanilla latte with soy milk from Starbucks.
Nice.
Okay. What's your favorite ice cream?
Superman.
What did you say?
Superman.
What's in Superman?
It's like 3 colors, yellow, red, and blue. And it's just a bunch of deliciousness all the way around.
That was my first time thinking about it when I came to Michigan. I had no idea what that was.
Yeah, right. It is a Michigan thing, quite honestly.
I'm not a big ice cream person, but when I do, I like old school chocolate chip, not chocolate chip cookie dough, just regular chocolate chip ice cream, which is very hard to find now. But that's my favorite.
Good.
What about your favorite book currently or of all time?
Well, so I'm an associate pastor at my church as well. And so if I don't say my favorite book is the Bible, I'm going to get scorned out of my church. But the Bible. Seriously, though, it is actually.
One of the books I read most recently is Eloquent Rage by Brittany Cooper. It talks about feminism. And so that's what's sticking out to me right now.
Cool. Your favorite quote or saying?
I'll share the quote. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. What's your quote? Because I got to think it through.
There's so many, but I heard this quote the other day. Well, somebody said this the other day and reminded me, but nothing will work unless you do, by Maya Angelou. And I really love that quote.
All right, so I'm going to butcher mine. It's that quote that says something about, measure of a man is not that, they make mistakes, but it's how they respond to the mistakes or something like that. It's a metaphor for my life.
Cool. So what's your most memorable either court case or experience at JMC College?
Mm.
Something
I'm dealing with
with you.
I'm dealing with one right now that is likely going to be extremely memorable. And it has to do with a fire that happened at a man's home. He then was subsequently charged with arson. And there's zero motive for there to be any kind of arson. But what's happened now is we've sued the insurance company and we are fighting the criminal charge in the criminal case for arson. It's an ongoing kind of, it's been going on now for like a year and a half. The only result that's going to happen is that he's going to get acquitted on the criminal side and he's going to just rack up a lot of interest on the civil side. But what the issue is that the insurance company initially thought that that they had an arson case when if they would have dug deeper, they don't. And so the reason why this is so important for me is because this poor guy is having to fight two battles. One, pay the attorney's fees for the criminal case and simultaneously pay attorney's fees for the civil case, with all the hope in the world that at some point his money's not going to run out, and two, that he'll be able to still, survive. Ultimately, he will, but it's memorable because once you go down one path, it's really hard for you to change direction, regardless of whether or not there's a lot of other information there. If you've identified in your head, this is one situation, it's hard for you to change it. Especially if you've convinced yourself of one thing, you've bought into it, it's hard. It doesn't matter what information is coming that is opposite, you've convinced yourself of it. And it's a metaphor to me of politics. Once people convince themselves of one thing, it really doesn't matter what other contrary evidence and information is coming their way. They're convinced of that. And so it's really difficult to change course, because when you do, you have to say I was wrong, and people don't like it.
That's deep. What about you, Dr. Vincent?
I say my favorite moment is my student group. They put on a Black Excellence celebration every year to celebrate Black students and faculty and staff who've supported Black students in the college. So they've been doing that for a few years now. So I really enjoy that. It's like a Sunday brunch type of celebration that we have. So
this is a follow-up question. What's the most fulfilling, if you have to say one thing, the most fulfilling thing about your position at the firm or at Michigan State?
Most fulfilling for me, hands down, is the ability to feel like I'm a resource to the community that I live in.
Yeah, I like that, being a resource. I also say the educator in me wants to say, I love when people tell me that they learned something from either coming to a workshop or just like, and then, or they tell me they've implemented something. I'm like, that I find is fulfilling. It's like, okay, you found utility in what, and just being around me. So.
Okay, so what's your favorite season?
Summer.
Me too.
Mine's is like a Michigan summer. I'm not talking about like down south summer, but Michigan summer, definitely favorite season.
If you had to choose one superpower, what would it be?
Time travel, to teleport.
Really? Mine's would be the ability to communicate in any language.
That's a good one.
That's good.
I used to think reading minds would probably be a good one. I'm like, I don't think I want to know what everyone is saying.
No. Some thoughts I don't want to know about.
So what's your favorite song of all time or current favorite song?
I listen to Say a Little Prayer by Aretha Franklin a lot. I don't know why, but I play that a lot.
I can honestly say I don't have a favorite song.
Wow.
Well, I'm a musician, so I all the songs I love, and there's not one particular one that I like to listen to or play more than the other. I wish it feels like a cop out, but I don't have a favorite.
Well, I have a random question. If you were to say, what's the greatest accomplishment you feel like you've accomplished in your lifetime?
Ooh.
The one thing you could say, I am so proud that I did this. When I'm on my deathbed, I will say that is one thing that I'm just so happy I did. It's a tough question.
It's not tough for me at all.
Go for it.
You say it is.
My greatest accomplishment has not yet been accomplished, and that's because it has to do with my kids. Seeing them, pouring into them, watching them succeed. Kids made life make a lot more sense to me.
I think that's hard. I feel like I still pretty young in my career. But I mean, today EMSU had their Excellence in Diversity Awards, and I was one of the recipients. So I feel like that's been pretty memorable. Thank you. But I mean, as of now, I would honestly say my PhD, because that really wasn't the path that I was on. I thought I would just graduate undergrad, go work, and be on with my life. And so to get my PhD, I'd say as of now, that's the life achievement so far. But there's a few things I still want to to accomplish. So
yeah, life's a journey. We're always growing and evolving into becoming who we should become. So what might be a final takeaway thought that you guys may have for us regarding the legal community, civic education communities, life, anything legal, etc.? Final takeaway that you want us to walk away with.
For me, it's just that ultimately there's really no mistake that you can make that there isn't some type of workaround for. And I say that because as an attorney, you start out thinking that whatever mistake you make is going to be detrimental to the case and your client's going to lose millions of dollars. And then you realize after you practice for about 4 or 5 years that there's always a workaround, and it's a metaphor for life. There's nothing that you've done or can do that you don't. There's not some type of workaround for. There's some type of way to turn a failure into a positive accomplishment. So that's the way I would end it.
Mine is everybody has a part. And I think this pandemic has taught us that, from a simple wearing a mask, washing your hands, very simple, basic principles of just following directions. But I think to me, that also ties to the work that I do. People often think, equity is such a daunting thing to try to fix. It's a daunting thing to try to make everyone feel included. I'm like, but if everybody does their part, you can get there. And so helping people see that everybody plays a role. Some are bigger than others, but everybody has a part, because it's a ripple effect. One person does one action and can pour into the next thing. And so I feel like that's my takeaway, that I hope people begin to see that you can be, even if that's just being civically engaged or taking what you learned here tonight and going to share that with somebody else, but everybody has a role. I don't subscribe to the notion that I don't have a part in this or this isn't my problem. We all play a part in it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for answering the rapid question. It's so great to know you all on a personal level.
Yeah.
We'll end here.
And thank you so much for moderating, Ernst. You did a